These are the miners of the San Jose Mining Company, and they're here with their families and loved ones celebrating the retirement of Mario Gomez, a miner that's worked for 46 years in the mine. The person giving the toast is Don Lucho, their boss. After their celebration, they get up the next morning to go mining. They pick up everybody on the team, including Yoni, who lives with his wife and his mistress. So the boys get in their bus and they get to work. And at the mine, we see Don Lucho arguing with Marco, their boss. Don Lucho tries to urge Marco to check the mine again, saying that the structure is not stable. Don Lucho tells his boss that it's unsafe to keep the men down there. But Marco tells Don Lucho that their quota has gone up and that they need to mine more, and that he's not gonna do a health check on the mine. After a very disappointing conversation with his boss, Don Lucho introduces the team to their new member, Memani, who's from Bolivia, and sends them on their way. They drive about an hour, 1,700 feet below ground, and it's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It's super hot, super deep, and now they start to mine. As the boys were getting ready, Don Lucho, checking the structure, finds this huge gash in the mine. And as soon as he was checking it out and the rest of the guys were setting up, the mine starts collapsing on itself. Don Lucho tries to get all the guys on the truck and they try to drive out. And on their way out, they see other guys driving from the opposite side of the road towards them. And before they know it, the guys coming from the opposite side crash into the wall and the entire mine collapses with this giant rock covering the exit that they were going to use to escape. Some employees get out and they call the families of the men who were trapped inside. And also, the news gets wind of this, and now everybody in Chile figures it out. And in the mine, after the collapse, Don Lucho urges everyone to go to the refuge. The refuge is this place inside of mines that miners use in case of an emergency. It has food, supplies, battery, shit like that. Mario suggests that they go up to the chimneys and use the ladders that were installed in case of an emergency and try their luck there. And while the guys were inside, looking for a way out, their families on the outside were looking for a way in. The mine company's security tries to scare some of the families into going away, but Maria, one of the miner's sister, starts rattling the cage after throwing a rock at one of the guards. And everybody follows along, and it becomes like a mini riot on the gate. Word quickly gets to the president that there are 33 people stuck in a mine somewhere. They explain to him that the mine is a private mine and that the government has no stake there, but one of the ministers, Lawrence, wanted to go out and check it out for himself. Inside the mine, as Mario and Alex were checking out the chimneys, they climb as much as they could until they can't anymore, as the company didn't finish the emergency ladders and there's no way out. In the morning, Minister Lawrence gets to the mine. He talks to Marco about sending rescue, but Marco tells him that the mountain is still moving and that this particular mine, it's almost impossible to send rescue and rescue the miners. Informing this to the families did not really go well for Lawrence, as he got slapped in the face by Maria. Back at the mine, trouble starts intensifying, as one of the men, Dario, forces his way into the box that had all the food that was supposed to last all the men. And some of them, with Dario's lead, start eating all the cookies and all the tuna that they had for reserves. Mario gets there, takes lead, tries to urge everybody to stay calm, and that they need to share the food as much as they can because they need to stay alive until rescue gets there. So anyways, as news was breaking out, the Chilean government takes control of the situation. The president calls this guy who's an engineer, who's an expert at digging people out of mines, I guess. His name is Sugaret, and he tells Lawrence that there's less than 1% chance of them actually rescuing the men, and that even if things go according to plan, it's gonna take about 8 days to reach them. But Minister Lawrence doesn't care, as he wants to do whatever he can to rescue the men. And so the next day, he gets a bunch of power drills to the San Jose mine, and they start digging. Now this gives hope to everybody, to the men who are stuck down there, who can hear them digging down to rescue them, and to the families that can see the efforts being made to rescue their loved ones. Sugaret and Minister Lawrence run into a few problems, as digging in that particular mine is very difficult. So they now realize that it's going to take a lot of time to really dig deep and find the men. The miners struggle with their own problems of lack of food, water, and as they were going through these, they can hear the drill getting to them, closer and closer. But they later find out that the drill missed them by 10 meters. And now the engineers have to dig again, but in a different directions, and it's gonna take more days to reach that deep. The men are almost out of food as they start to hallucinate eating the tiny scraps of food that they have left. The engineer Sugret starts to lose hope, saying that the men only had food for 3 days and they've been down there for 16 days now, and telling Lawrence that maybe saving them is not an option at this point. But both he and Lawrence realize that the families are still holding on, so they team up again, and Lawrence comes up with this idea to dig in the wrong direction, and as the mine is moving, it's gonna direct them to where the miners are. So the men have run out of food, they're dehydrated, they're incredibly hungry, they're very tired, they can barely move, and before they know it, the drill gets to them, and there's now a possibility that they're gonna be rescued. They send a piece of paper with a message saying that all 33 are okay and well down in the mine. So everybody's happy, the president's happy because he's saving his political career, the families are happy because their husbands and brothers are not dead inside of a mine, but Lawrence and Sugret are worried more than ever because now they found them, but they still have to save them. So until they find some kind of way to rescue all the men, they send them food, supplies through this tube. They also send them a bunch of cameras and videotapes, and now they can communicate from within the mine with their families. And at this point, news of the miners and the San Jose mine is international news. Everybody's talking about it, and Mario becomes one of the most famous men in Chile, as he was the one who was coordinating the men and giving hope. So while a lot of publicity was happening upstairs, our boys who are stuck in the mine start reading the newspapers and figure out that Mario has been offered a book deal for being the fearless leader of the 33. And this condescension really puts them off, and they have a fight with Mario and they make him sleep somewhere else, not really accommodating. And upstairs, Lawrence was running into a lot of trouble with the mine. They can't seem to dig that deep because there's a lot of metal there that keeps breaking the drills. So a lot of countries donated their drills and they were helping out, but most of them gave up. And now he's bringing this giant magnet to pull out the metal from within the mine so that they can keep digging again. Mario gets between them, and then he apologizes for being a jerk and for telling people on the outside that he was the leader. Lawrence on the outside got his magnet, took out the metal, started digging, and then made it to their refuge. But to help him out, Don Lucho and the guys do this controlled explosion to remove these iron beams that were getting in the way. And after they do that, Lawrence finally makes it to the refuge, and now they're putting down a hatch that's gonna pull out the men one by one. The only worry that they have now is that the big rock that was blocking the entrance started moving because of the explosion that the men caused from inside. So they have to pull out the men as fast as they can before the mine collapses completely. And the first person to use the hatch is Alex Vega. Because his wife is pregnant and she's got a baby coming on the way, the guys figure, yeah, he has more things to live for. But as the first person who was going, he was also the one in the most danger, because if the mine collapses on the hatch, he's gonna die, and so will the rest of the guys. But he gets in the hatch, and midway, about 400 meters, they run into a little bit of trouble, and they lose communications and camera feed, but he makes it out without a scratch, and one by one, they take out all the guys, and they're all happy to see their families. They're all wearing sunglasses so that the sunlight doesn't shock them because they've been underground for 2 months now, and it's all amazing again. And the last person who was supposed to go was Don Lucho. As their boss and the person who was supposed to keep the men safe, he decided he should go last, and he does. And he makes it out too. And the greatest thing about the story is, it's a true story. This really happened. This is like a documentary.